Hello and welcome everybody. I'm Omar and today we present a very nice tool we call Code Assist. Code Assist is an agentic tool that will help you get accustomed and started with the code base and the project that you're working on. It provides you with very useful information and extracts a lot of helpful information and notes from the code that you provide, and it generates useful documentation that you can use for your work. So it consists mainly of three features that are currently implemented. The first one is the documentation generation, in which it generates documentation based on the code provided. And this documentation is split into two types. The first is the technical documentation, which is more about the code itself and what happens in the code and the programming logic. And the other one is the business documentation, which is more towards the business logic of the project and what exactly happens in total about the projects. And this is to provide more information to help both the developers and the project managers working on the project. The next one will be the PowerPoint slides generator, which generates a slide deck based on the documentation that was generated. And this would help in presenting the work if needed. And the third feature would be CodeGuard, which detects and finds potential risks and issues in the code so that developers can use those to mitigate these issues before the code is live and deployed on Azure. So it provides useful features for both the project managers and for the developers that will be working on this code and on these projects. So, of course, in the terminal, you can see that everything is running. We have multiple agents that are running in this tool. So this tool is based on the Azure AI agent service. And each feature is running on one or multiple agents that perform different parts to create the final outcome. We can see now that it is done. So we can take a look at how the output looks like. And if we take a look at the documents generated, you can find that there is a couple of files that are generated. So the first, we can take a look at the documentation. So you can see that documentation is generated into two formats. One is Markdown, which is more developer friendly and works better with Git repos and a code base. And we can take a look at the technical documentation here in the Markdown, which looks something like this. And you can see that it is geared towards the actual code. And the other format would be in Word documents, which is more suited for keeping track of all the work, and it will be more for the project managers. And we can take a look at how the business documentation looks like in this Word document. And you can see how it looks at the project with a high-level overview of what happens inside the code in general. So we have documentation. Then the next step would be to see how the presentation slide looks like. So we can take a look at this. And of course, the generated documents are all a draft, so it's only a starting point that you can work onwards. So we can see here that it captures all the important information and sorts them in very nice structured points, which can be helpful in presenting the work and also can, again, work as a starting point that you can build upon based on what you need to show in the project. And then the final file would be the risks file, which is actually a JSON file, as you can see, which is more developer friendly. And you can see here that in the provided code base, there were two issues found in this code. Each issue is accompanied with some very useful information, like the description of what exactly is this issue about, the file in which the issue happened, like which code script had this issue, the line number in this file, so that developers can easily get to the point where the issue might be happening, and potentially the service name if it is using a specific service that is on Azure or somewhere else, and also a resolution on how potentially you can mitigate this issue. And we can see here, for example, the second issue about unauthorized external connection to Perspective API, which is actually a very nice catch because it is not allowed to use external connections to APIs provided by other providers, which is something that is good to catch from the beginning when you're working on your code. And maybe a more simple one would be the first one, which is about an API key. So it tells us that there is an API key hard-coded in the code script. And this happens in line number 29. So if we go to this Python script and take a look at this line, we can find that there is a variable called API key, which is set to a hard-coded API key for this specific service. And of course, this is a very high severity security breach. So it's good to catch things like this from the beginning and not wait until the project is live and deployed on Azure until we catch all these issues. Of course, the value that is shown here is a dummy variable that we just made up. It's not a real value, so don't worry about that. That's basically Code Assist. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed our work.